First part stopped, obviously, because the camera um, ended up shutting down. But there's part two of it. So I was saying that, yeah, the woman, she doesn't have those type of difficulties because she's not African. She wasn't African American. So she didn't quite understand at first, what I was trying to explain to her about the difficulties of being an African American Republican, the challenges that we face from our own community, especially if we were Democrats or liberals or coming from a liberal background or coming from a state, city, location that is heavily dominated by the Democrats, the Democratic Party, whether in politics or even Main Street people, blue collar workers, blah, blah, blah. And trying to go from one spectrum to the other spectrum, it's a little bit difficult at times. I can say from my own personal experiences, I'm not going to say this about all blacks, about all African Americans, but in the environment that I lived in, environment that I came from, it's a little bit difficult for you to have a different thought process or a different philosophy or adopt that without facing some type of backlash, without facing some type of persecution is a loaded word, so I won't say persecution, but without facing some type of criticism. Okay. Most African Americans where I came from, the environment I came from, I can't speak for all of you, but the environment that I came from, it was difficult for me when I made that choice to make a move and live in a more republican, in a more conservative way, in a more traditional manner. It was difficult because it was like hive mentality where I was from. It was one of those situations where you're not supposed to think any way different. It's sort of like what Candace Owens and Kanye West was talking about, have been talking about, the whole shout out to Kanye West and Candace Owens, and not just them, but there are a lot of blacks that are not as vocal as those individuals are, that are Republicans who have been experiencing the same thing and have been experiencing it for a very long time, a lot longer than we have. I'm virtually new to the Republican Party. However, I did a lot of research on it, the history of the Republican Party, all the way back into the times of the 1800s. I wouldn't say that I know everything about it, but I know key points in history about African Americans in the Republican Party that opened my eyes. It was quite surprising, interesting indeed, finding out that African Americans have been connected to the Republican Party almost since its inception. Which again, it's very surprising, very enlightening, very eye-opening. I didn't know this information. I wasn't a Democrat, but coming from a Democratic city, I don't think I was ever taught that. I don't think anyone ever told me that African Americans have historically been connected to the Republican Party. Knowing that was actually comforting, but it was also, for others, it was also scary because they don't know anything about again, I wasn't the only one in my environment that was clueless about the Republican Party. So because of that, it's scary. It was scary for them. Me, I was ready for the change because I had lived a certain way for a very long time and it wasn't successful. So I was ready to change. They're not ready to change. So because they're not ready to change, them seeing me make that change made them feel like I was abandoning them or something. Or to be a little bit more dramatic with it, they were being dramatic with it. It felt like betrayal almost to them. It felt like I betrayed them, like I betrayed the community, like I was betraying my ties to the African American community. And if anything, I was trying to upgrade them. How so? Because what I was trying to do was find a more successful mode of living. And once I experienced it, I was trying to actually bring the results back to them to show them, hey, listen, I tried something new and it worked. And maybe it'll work for you. This is how it's done, right? Sit down, talk to them and show them how it's done. So maybe they could experience the same thing. But again, change for some people is frightening, especially if it's an abrupt change. If it's a change that you don't get ready for. If it's a change that's sudden. Like a storm right? You see the clouds in the sky, but you don't think nothing of it, right? It's, you know, a few black clouds in the sky. No big deal. Black clouds come out all the time, right? But then, out of nowhere, there's a wind that kicks up and knocks your jacket off. And you say to yourself, ah, it's just a little bit of wind. Then, whoop, drop of water, crack of some thunder. Okay, now things are getting a little serious. You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, you're in a full downpour. And you're saying to yourself, I wasn't prepared for this. There's no umbrella, I got no raincoat. And that's what it feels like for a lot of the people in my environment when I was getting ready to make the change. And I sympathize with them about that. I really do. I sympathize with the situation because change for me used to be scary, right? But fortunately, I don't know why, but I'm just an adventurous person. I'm just a person who is willing to get out of my comfort zone in search of something that's unique, in search of something that's authentic or genuine, in search of something that can build my character, something that can upgrade my lifestyle, something that could benefit me or benefit those around me, right? I'm a knowledge seeker. I hate to say that because that's so cliche, but I'm a knowledge seeker. You know, I'm the type of person that if there's something new to learn, I want to learn it. Not for the sake of being able to walk around like a rooster and beat on my chest and say, I've learned something new and I think I'm smarter than you. No, that's not what I do. I want to learn something new because I want to be able to apply it to my life and see the results of it. I guess you could call it a scientist, but that's a loaded word too. I don't want to make myself seem to be bigger than what I really am. That's another problem in the African American community where I came from. There's a lot of things. I'm not going to touch on a lot of things right now because I don't want to make this a long video. There's already a part 2 right now. I'm just doing a part 2 of it. There's already, I'm not really a talker. I was at the rally with Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly, I hate saying her last name. She used to be on Fox though. Shout out to Kimberly. I'll just say that. Kimberly G. Yeah, she used to be on Fox. A program called The Five. She was there, gave a great speech. Greg Pence, who I did some phone banking for, great guy, prominent Republican. He is the older brother to Mike Pence. He's running for Congress right now. He's been in the 6th District for 60 years. He's a veteran of the Marine Corps. He stands on the his platform is the Second Amendment support. He supports President Trump and his own brother, Mike Pence, obviously. And he's ready to serve. He's ready to go into Congress and he's ready to fight the tough issues. A lot of people know him. I live here in Columbus at the present moment. I've met him. I didn't have a long discussion with him, but the people around him that know him say that he is a person who is dead set on productivity and somebody who really is eager to get to Washington to help drain the swamp. Governor Eric Holcomb, I was around him, met him and listened to him. Great speech he gave. Kelly Mitchell. A lot of prominent Indiana GOP members were there. And like I said, I was just mingling around with some of the, doing something that I never did before because I never went to any Democratic rallies or anything like that. I haven't been to any presidential rallies. I'm actually, I would love to go to the RNC convention. Maybe when Trump runs in 2020, if he can win in 2020, and I think he will. I think he has a great shot at it, especially if he continues on the road that he's going right now. If he continues on the road that he's going right now, listen, I'm going to say this and I could be wrong. I have been wrong before, but listen, unemployment is at its lowest for everyone. I'm not even going to get into the ethnic backgrounds of unemployment statistics for everyone. It's the lowest it has been in history for almost everyone, regardless of your racial background. Historic tax cuts for not just businesses and the rich, but he's about to sign something for the middle class. Jesus Christ. Do you know how much that actually helps out the economy? Historic regulation slashes and cuts from Obamacare, which failed us miserably. And me coming from Chicago, I know it failed me miserably. It failed businesses miserably. I was affected by that. I was actually working for a guy in a company, and once they found out that Obamacare was going to be a real legislation and a real thing, because he had been, abreast of what he was trying to do before he even became president. And it's the moment that he heard about the Obamacare actually going to be signed into law, he started laying off a bunch of employees because he did not want to pay that extra money to his employees for health care. He just didn't want to do that. So therefore he thought, hey, I'm going to lay you off. I'm going to lay off a bunch of you guys and try to save myself some money, because I didn't go into business to have the profit that I'm trying to make taken away from me, because this guy wants me to he just basically wants us to privatize healthcare. What happened to the free market? He definitely was very business savvy. And very political savvy about the situation. He knew how it was going to affect his company, and he just didn't want to lose out that extra dollars. And I thought to myself, at first I was a little bit discouraged and disappointed that he laid us off. But then when I thought about it, I said to myself, if I owned the business, and I'm used to, for years and years and years, used to paying my employees a certain amount of money, and they're happy with that. In fact, I paid them enough money to be able to go and seek out their own health care. And then all of a sudden the government comes in and says, hey, listen, that's not enough. You need to also pay their health care as well. And you're saying to yourself, that eats up my profits. Now, most people think, well, these greedy businessmen, they're not going to do nothing but spend those extra profits on luxury items and going on vacations and stuff. That's not true. These individuals have bills that they have to pay. Most of it goes right back into the business. Have you ever owned a business? Do you realize the costs and the capital that you have to raise in order to keep this business going? Listen, I took business management in college, and they gave the statistic. This is the one thing that always stayed with me when I took it. Most businesses go bankrupt or completely shut down and close their doors within the first 5 years. And this is the normal. This is the norm. It's the norm that most new businesses that start off, if you don't have the capital and you don't have a good financial support system behind you, and you didn't plan for this, you can't possibly lose your business within the first 5 years because of the lack of capital. It takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of ingenuity. It takes a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of information, knowledge on how to run a business. So once you get things going, if you could pass that 5 years and still be in business and be in the black and not in the red, the government better not come in and tell me, well, I can't do this because of this regulation, and I can't do this because of this regulation. What did I even set up a business for? If you're taking all of my profits, what did I even set up a business for? I give these employees enough money already in their checks, so they should be able to go and seek out their own health care. Why do I have to pay that extra money to them for health care that they're not even going to enjoy anyway? Most of them are not even going to even use it. Now, granted, there were some businesses that already offer you health care. Then that's because they have the capital to do so. But what about these smaller businesses? So anyway, I don't want to harp on that, but I was affected by the Obamanomics, what I call it. I was affected by that, and that was spoken about at the rally. In fact, Donald Trump Jr. made a point of saying that Obama was not a business major. You understand? He went to Harvard. He's a law major. He's not a business major. He doesn't understand economics. Donald Trump does. And I'm not saying that because I'm on Donald Trump's nuts. I'm saying that because Donald Trump has been in business since he was a kid. His father, Fred Trump, rest in peace, was a businessman who taught this man everything he knew. Picture this. Picture being driven around by your father, who owned a business in New York, the Big Apple, where most businesses come to start. It used to be back in the days that you couldn't own a business and not be in New York. It used to be that if you want to be somebody in business, you got to come and walk through New York, baby. You got to go through New York's doors. It used to be that. Now it's a little bit different. But in the times of Donald Trump, when he was coming up, that was that. If you're trying to be anybody in the business world, you better come through New York. You have to. It was almost a must. It was the mecca of business. I don't really want to say that because, you know, I don't want to offend anybody that are Muslims. Anyway, so to kind of end this conversation, it's 15 minutes already. To kind of end this conversation, after talking to this lady about my difficulties and my challenges, I kind of understood myself more and understood the choices that I made, and I felt I made a sound choice. Because hearing myself explain it to her confirmed it in my head. You made the right choice, dude. They call it intuition, right? Following your first mind, following that gut feeling in your stomach. When you know that you made the right decision. And me talking to her was actually affirming it to myself. I know I made the right decision because I'm listening to what's coming out of my mouth and I'm evaluating what I'm telling her, and I'm saying to myself, I made the right move. It's difficult, but it's difficult for the community that I come from, because the African American community, man, look, I would like to get in depth, but I'll save that for another video. But I will say this. We are complacent. The African American community in this nation, the United States, is complacent, which is dangerous. We have assimilated too much, and that's dangerous. We're not hungry for knowledge anymore. We're not seeking to learn all that we can learn. We're happy with where we at. We're happy with the point that we're at as a minority in the majority. We're not seeking to grow. In business, you have stages of growth, right? And you start off in your initial stage, your beginning stages. Then you have your growth stage. Then you have your stability stage. And then you go into decline, right? This is most businesses. I would say if the African American group of people here in this United States was a business, I would say that we're in decline. That we're no longer stable because we're being complacent. We're sitting around, we're just complaining about the situation and we're not doing anything about it. And we're allowing others to guide us when we can guide ourselves, right? We're allowing individuals to present us with an agenda